Welcome to the world of scale modeling with Mike Ashe, where techniques, tips, and creativity come alive with dozens of tutorials, projects, tape-up reviews, and picture references to help you build better scale models and enjoy our wonderful hobby. Welcome to our continuing series on detailing and building the Revell Monogram 1/48 scale B-17G. In this video, we'll remove the ailerons using the same techniques that I demonstrated in removing the elevators. And then we'll clean up the ailerons and the openings in the wings, seal all the openings, and then add the hinges. I've cut out the ailerons exactly how I cut out the elevators. I first took this razor saw and cut down along this edge in the engraved line, and cut down along this edge in the engraved line, and I've kind of alternated between this side and this side so that I wouldn't go past this long engraved line. And then I took this scribing needle or scriber and just carefully kept going down here, and then I would switch and go this way, and then I would flip it over and make a few passes down this way. So the one thing I noticed, and this is not untypical of other aircraft, the top and the bottom don't match. So we're going to have to fix that, and I'll show you how we do it. There's a real simple solution to it, and we'll go ahead and seal this first, then these two ends, and then we'll work on the aileron. And it's going to come out really, really nice. This one has got 4 hinges on each side. So I'll get back with you as soon as I seal this up, and I'll explain to you how I did it and why. I've got the aileron removed, and I've been working on sealing everything. I used a 0.04 by 0.188 strip of plastic here to fill this in. And you can see before you do this, you have to kind of clean up that inside edge here and on this side, on the inside. And when I cut the other one, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So once I got a clean edge, and then I ran a sanding stick along this edge here to flatten it out, and on here to flatten it out. And then I super glued this strip in place, and using my method with a number 11 X-Acto blade, I carefully peeled it down to the surface of the plastic, sanded it smooth, used some silver paint. It got 3 coats of super glue here and 2 coats here, and came out pretty good. So for the ends, I used 0.015 by 0.250 strips to fill these gaps, and then once it's dry, and it's almost dry now, I'll go ahead and trim them out and sand them smooth. On the aileron, what I did was I ran it across this stationary piece of sandpaper to get these 2 edges nice and flat, and then I used a 0.020 inch by 0.250 strip here and super glued it into place. And here again, I'll trim it and cut it down with an X-Acto blade, and then sand it smooth, and it'll be ready for me to then file out where the hinges are going to be. This hinge, and this hinge. 3 of the 4 hinges are exactly the same size. This one is going to be a little bit wider, so I may have to make a specialty length of plastic for that. And I'll show you how I do that. Well, the other thing is I want to make sure that you have a good sense of how I cut this out. I know I had explained this, so on the other wing, I'm going to videotape how I cut the edges and then use the scribing tool to carefully cut out the top and bottom so that you have a sense of how long it's going to take. But so far, I'm pretty pleased. And once I get these areas trimmed, and the aileron trim, we'll go ahead and check the fit and make some adjustments. I've got the aileron notched out, and it came out pretty good. I've got this end sealed this way so that I added that piece, it's 20 thousandths, so that the aileron will sit nice in its position. So I need to remove just a tiny bit of this plastic so that I can push it against the inside edge here. You see there's a little bit of a gap. It's about a 32nd of an inch. But once I do this, it really won't matter if that gap is there. So how I did this was I found that this little file works better than this bigger file at cutting through the plastic. This edge has got a nice cutting edge to it. So I notched down on both sides, and then on this big one I used the tip of this number 11 to kind of cut out this center section, and then I used these two microfiles, which are flat on one side and curved on the other, to go ahead and flatten out this area right in the middle, right here. Right here. So I've got a little bit of cleanup work to do, but I'm really pleased with how it's come out. That one curves just a little bit. You can see it curves just a little bit, so I need to straighten that out. But overall, I am pretty much ready to go ahead and set the hinges the same way, using the same technique as I did on the elevators. And then we'll see how it looks. So be back with you in just a little bit. I've got the rough cut hinges in place, and I'm going to have to be careful when I glue them because some of them are kind of loose, but they came out pretty good. And I used 0.08 by 0.1 for the smaller ones and 0.08 by 0.156 for this larger one. So I'll go ahead and carefully position each one, and then using my trusty 0.018 inch wire applicator, I'll dip it into some super glue and just put a drop right on this edge here. I don't want to glue the aileron in place because I have to clip these and then shape them, but they're looking pretty good. So I'll get back with you after I've glued them, remove the aileron, and I'll show you what they look like before I clip them. And then actually, I think I'll just go ahead and clip them and show you how I do it. So I'll get back with you in just a few minutes. I've used this razor saw in order to cut along this engraved line here and then this engraved line here. Now, on this wing, this engraved line on the lower, or on the upper part and on the lower part, almost matched. Over here, when I cut it, it did not match. So I had to do the best I could here and cut through this, and I'll be able to fix this, and I'll show you how I fix it. But you're going to have this problem too on the kit. So you need to do the best you can, and then we'll come back and fix it. So now we'll go ahead and scribe it. Just one pass at a time, all the way through. And when it starts getting to the end, this tip will start to bind a little bit. Now go ahead and rotate it. We'll go ahead and work on the other side a little bit. You want to hold this down firm, but you don't want to press too hard because you don't want to crack these seams. And once this is cut through, this area is going to be weak until we fix it. and it creates a mess. Go slow and be deliberate so that this edge, this tip, which is very sharp, doesn't jump onto the plastic and cause you to have to do some repair work. Okay, it's starting to go through. You can see it right there. It's starting to cut through. So we'll go ahead and stop there. And as it works its way across to the end, we'll go ahead and do this area down here. And then we'll turn it so we can clear this out. It's starting to bind. So let's turn it over and work on the other side. Okay, now let's see if we can cut through the rest of this with a sharp number 11. So far so good. Let's check the other side and see what we can do here. Most of this appears to be pretty much done. It does make quite a mess. Okay, that piece is good. Now, let's see what we can do. Pull this one out. Okay, it's bound up right here. So we're gonna be patient. And you don't want to snap the plastic. You want to just do what you have to do to cut through it. There you go. so now what we're going to do is we're going to clean out this inside stuff here, and then we'll do the same thing on the wing. Do this carefully. Now this is going to have to be sanded down, which is fine. That's what I did on the other one. But I just wanted to get rid of some of this residue here, cut residue from the scribing needle. Okay, we've got part to work with. Now let's go ahead and clean out this inside. That's one edge. Almost got the other edge. All right. So what we're going to do is we got to flatten this out with a sanding stick, and the same thing up here, and then a piece of 40 thousandths plastic will fill that gap quite nicely, and then we'll go ahead and fix this and this area here. So that's basically how you do it, and yeah, it creates quite a mess, but it's really not that hard. Okay, so what I've done is I've squared this edge and squared this edge, and I've cleaned out the interior and carefully sanded this flat and scraped it so that it's nice and flat, and I did the same thing on this edge. Now where that discrepancy was, the way I did it was I took this and just very slowly and carefully went back and forth. Of course a little bit faster until I got this squared away. So I'm going to need about 30 thousandths strip of plastic to fill that gap. And where that arrow is where the edge of this open section should be. So about 30 thousandths will do it. And on the aileron, what I'm going to do is I'll run this across a stationary piece of rough grit sandpaper and remove this excess, and then I'll go ahead and fill this in. So yeah, it's going to look pretty good and match the other wing, which is just about done. And I'll show you how to clip off the excess hinge plastic and how to shape it. Okay, so on the first wing, as I showed you, I had glued the rough glued the hinges in place, just like this. And now I'm using my cutters to carefully cut these off. And what will happen here is, of course, you got a little bit, and they'll have to be sanded so that it's flush with the wing. And this larger one, it can be cut in the same way. It's a little bit more of a challenge. Okay, we'll go ahead and cut this one carefully and slowly. There we go. Not bad. So let's get rid of all this scrap. And now we are one step closer to our finished hinges. And so now what we're going to do is I'll use various grades of sanding sticks, and I'll carefully sand these down so that they're flush with the wing surfaces, and then I'll begin the curved shaping process, just like I did on the elevators. So once I get that done, I'll show you what it looks like. The aileron on one wing is now complete and looks pretty good. When I position it, it'll be, one side will be up, one side will be down, but you just need to, it'll just be positioned just a little bit like that. And that's all you need to do. And the hinges, let me peel this tape back, show you the hinges. There. They're not perfect, but they don't have to be, because when you close it up, you're just going to see the surface of the hinge and the appearance of the round edges. So it looks pretty good. And we'll get the other one done, and then I'll show you both wings completed. The ailerons are now complete, and they came out really, really good. Yes, the ailerons push out just a micron on both ends on both of these, but once they're positioned up or down, they'll look really, really good. I had to put a little bit of a spacer here. I cut a little bit too deep on the ailerons for the larger hinge on both these, but they look good. And they'll really add a nice level of detail to the finished model. Once I get them primed, I'll go ahead and check the surfaces one more time for scrapes, but it's going to be an olive drab finish, and I'm really pleased with the way this came out.
This concludes the aileron work on the main wings, and stay tuned for our next video where we detail all the machine guns. What we're going to do is cut off the barrels and replace them with 2-part brass barrels, add gun sight rings, and we're going to add the covers for the machine gun belts. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. And when you get the chance, visit our website at www.mikeashley.com, where you're going to find dozens of free PDF downloads, including tutorials, picture references, model galleries, projects, and my 5 original scale modeling books. Thanks to Ben Sound and Videvo for the royalty-free music, and happy scale modeling!